Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Harmening, President of the Burnsville Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for listening in today for our Burnsville City Council Candidate Forum. I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Brady Folkestad with Lakeview Bank. He is the chair of our Public Policy Committee here at the Chamber, and he will be moderating the forum today. Take it away, Brady.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, again, I am Brady Folkestad with Lakeview Bank and chair of the Public Policy Committee for the Burnsville Chamber. Thank you for joining us for the City Council Forum. Tonight, we have Chris John, Vince Workman, and Dan Kealey joining us. Unfortunately, Crystal Fichette was unable to join us for the forum today. With that, we will get started. The candidates will be rotating as we go through questions. We took care of some housekeeping items with them before recording. They'll have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and then we will proceed through a series of questions that were developed by the Public Policy Committee. And then in closing, each candidate will have a 1-minute closing statement. As we do that, we'll start out with introduction. Each candidate has 2 minutes. Chris, we will start with you. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run for City Council.
Well, thanks, Brady. And first, thank you to both you, Jennifer, and the Chamber for hosting this forum. I think it's a great way to get familiar with the City Council candidates, so I really appreciate it. My name is Chris John. I'm an 18-year resident of Burnsville. I'm also a United States Navy veteran and an accountant. My wife, Nicole, and I decided to come to Burnsville, and we really fell in love with the city. Both our boys went through the ISD 191 school districts. My son Nate is in his second year at Winona State. My son Devin just turned 18 last week, and he's a senior at Burnsville. So I believe in a better Burnsville. In order to achieve my better Burnsville, I need to be a part of the solution, I feel. So I've started volunteering when the kids were young in their schools, whether that was chaperoning or going to the city or the school carnivals, and with the Burnsville Athletic Club and things of those natures, coached many teams. And then in 2012, I started on the city commissions. I started on the Economic Development Commission, and I learned a lot about how the city gets involved with businesses, recruiting businesses into the city and retaining them, what tools we have available for that type of thing. And then I did 2 full terms there and went on to the Planning Commission in 2019. And I learned a lot about how the Burnsville government operates to the Planning Commission. And right now I'm in my second term and I'm the current chair. To get running, I was basically triggered that no one ran against the incumbents 2 years ago. And I felt that there always should be some type of competition. So I figured I would throw my name in the hat, see what happens. But there are things I wanted to run on, or things I thought we could do a little bit better. And for one, I want to ensure that we're properly budgeting the city. I don't want to be making cuts just to make tax cuts. I think we get what we pay for. So I think we should do a good thing like that. I think we need to realign our staff, make sure we have enough staff available, and ensure that the unlined garbage dumps in the city get taken care of. Our drinking water remains safe. Revitalize our mall and other blighted areas around the city, and existing fiber optic cable for residents and businesses have access through competition with the ISPs.
Thank you, Chris. Next over to Dan. Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run for City Council.
Well, thank you to the great Burnsville Chamber for this candidate forum tonight. My name is Dan Kealey. I am blessed to be married to a very patient woman, humbled by 6 kids and heartwarmed every day by my 3 grandchildren. I've been your elected city councilman for 16 years, and during that time, I've never lost sight of whose money I'm privileged to be in charge of, yours, the taxpayers of Burnsville who own and rent property. The reason I'm running again is I'd like to keep a common sense and innovative, idea-driven, solution-driven voice on our city council. I've enjoyed the last 16 years of service to the community. I'm very deeply engaged in the community, involved in a number of different things, volunteering an enormous amount of time on various projects, most recently the Heart of the City race that I started 11 years ago, and the Burnsville Festival and Fire Muster, most recently taking over chair. So I think the bottom line is I really want to put another 4 years of investment into the community to ensure the leadership of the city remains solid and makes good, wise decisions. And we're in the business of clean and safe. So we spend 8 months of the year on budget. Previously, it was 6 months. Now it's 8 months. And, our primary expense, the largest chunk of our pie is public safety. And so safety is paramount, always has been since 2006. And I've fought very hard to give our public safety departments all the tools, all the staff, and all the facilities they need to do their job. Because to me, a safe city is where people want to live and work. We have examples of places that aren't so safe, and I think we don't want to be anything like them. We want to make sure that we remain a city that is desirable to live, work, and play in. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Now, Vince, coming over to you. Could you introduce yourself to those of us participating in the forum and let us know why you decided to run for city council?
Thank you, Brady. Yes, my name is Vince Workman. I'm a current member on the Burnsville City Council. I was first elected in 2018. Prior to that, I served on the Burnsville Planning Commission from 2015 until I was elected, serving as chair from 17 to 18. What first motivated me to run was my long history in Burnsville. I grew up here. I went to high school here, graduated, left for a little bit, and then came back. We bought our first house here and are now raising our family here. I've got 3 boys at home and another on the way in November, which we're keeping fingers crossed as a girl, but 10 fingers, 10 toes. What motivated me to run in 2018 and continues to motivate me today is when I was on the Planning Commission, I learned a lot about our regulations in Burnsville, and I found us maybe not actively seeking ways to say no to development, but there were hindrances to certain things coming into town through our codes. And I thought that some of that needed to change. We needed to find a way to say yes and work with developers rather than, finding mundane things in our code like siding materials and matching colors on side of buildings. And that's still work that I'm passionate about today. But bigger picture, this is a community that I've spent most of my life in, and find an obligation to leave it better than I found it, making sure that my children and my grandchildren, should they choose to live here, have as positive of an experience in Burnsville as I did. So thank you.
Thanks, Vince. As with that, now that we got to know a little bit about our candidates, we're going to be moving on to the questions that were developed. One of the items that has been a hot topic for the city council for a little while here is improving various sections of Burnsville. Talked about heart of city, we've talked about the mall area. One of the new areas that residents are taking a look at is kind of the northeast section of Burnsville. With that, the question will go to Dan first. Northeast section of Burnsville, the area appears to have some struggles with closing of a couple of schools and a kind of a blighted strip center area. Is there anything that the city can do to stem a little bit of this decline and maybe revive the area a bit?
Good question. That's been a challenge for us for quite some time. We've tried to buy this property, unfortunately with no serious response from the owner. This has been something we've been actively engaged in for many years, actually. There are some current code issues that are being addressed, and our expectation is the landowner will comply and improve the property. And who knows, maybe they'll decide to sell. The land value, of course, is now much higher due to the redevelopment of the Metcalf school, which is in Egan city limits. So acquiring this just got more expensive. Our best option is to continue to work with the landowner and encourage a private developer to buy and redevelop. And if we as a city have to partner with a private sector developer to help make that happen, we certainly are open to that. We did have a project come to us. It was not what we envisioned for that particular land as an ideal highest and best use, but we did have conversations and consider it. So We just have to continue to work on it. We don't buy property and take control of it and then do something else with it to please the city. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Vince, next to you, is there something that can be done in this area of Burnsville to help stem some of the decline and or revive that area?
Thank you, Brady. I'm not sure how many people are aware, but my family business used to be located in this office. In fact, the A from our sign still hangs on the side of the building. As Councilmember Kealey alluded to, this has not flown under the radar of City Council. We've spent quite a bit of time on this corner. In January of 2020, we explored the idea of changing the zoning from B2 to mixed to opening up potential development, but then opted to keep it as B2 zoning until an appropriate project came along. March of 2020, staff gave an update to the Economic Development Commission, pretty much saying we've tried to talk with this owner about a partnership and we're just told they were not interested. And then as Councilmember Kealey also alluded to, we had an application for an apartment building at this corner with a significant ask for public money, which we were not on board with, including a housing TIF, which is not something we've done. More to come. There's a lot of action here in this. I don't think we're going to be waiting much longer.
Thanks, Vince. And then now, Chris, over to you. Same question, Northeast Burnsville, what can be done over there?
If you speak with the residents in that area, it's a very popular subject. It's something they're looking at every day, and they really don't like it. Personally, I've seen this as blighted area since I moved here 18 years ago. It has really gone downhill from there. We do have a fund available to do this, and I think that's what Dan was alluding to earlier when he talked about the Economic Development Authority Fund. We haven't been funding it though. So even if it was available to buy right now, we wouldn't have the funds to do it. And I think that's one thing we need to start doing, is start funding that EDA, so that if these opportunities come available, we'd be able to purchase it and do what it takes to revitalize that area. Like you said, Egan, yeah, that's all I have.
Thanks, Chris. Next one, Vince, this question is going to be coming to you first. COVID, a lot of things changed all over the business community. A lot of things changed at the city as well. Is there something that we learned during COVID with some of the changes in city regulation and such that was helpful that we need to continue moving forward on as we look to foster a better business environment in Burnsville?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway, Brady, is that anytime we implement a one-size-fits-all policy to anything, you're setting yourself up for unintended consequences that might not have been deliberate at the onset. You can't make blanket policy decisions for entire communities or business sectors. And one thing that we did in Burnsville is we relaxed many of our commercial regulations during COVID. Including things like allowing restaurants to, put seating in parking lots to facilitate social distancing. We relaxed our signage regulations. And it would be a waste of my time if I didn't quickly mention our commitment to the business community through our CARES grant, our funding. Burnsville gave more money to the business community than any other city in the state. $2 million of our 4.7 with grants up to 20,000. Most states were at 10, and that included $50,000 contributions to the Chamber, the Convention Visitors Bureau, and 360.
Thank you, Vince.
Chris, really fast minutes, Brady.
They are really fast minutes. we gotta keep things moving along. Short attention spans. With that, it's going over to Chris here. Chris, your thoughts on what the city possibly learned as far as regulation and such during COVID and things we need to continue moving in that direction going forward?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest opportunities business have realized through the COVID epidemic was that most employees can work from home. And this has been a large cost savings to businesses. However, in Burnsville here, we're limited by our current monopolized internet access. There's currently an initiative where So in the local government, we have fiber optics running through the streets currently that we can flow through the highest speeds of internet. And the city only uses a couple strands of this. The rest, hundreds of lines lay dormant in the streets. And what this initiative is that we could use those dormant lines to rent out to internet service providers, and they can then give higher speed internet access to business and residents of Burnsville and bring non-tax revenue to the city. I think this is no brainer. I think this is something we should do and something we can do right now.
Thanks, Chris. Dan, over to you. Lessons learned, items learned, specifically as it relates to city processes and regulations during COVID that we need to continue.
Thank you. Good question. COVID was a learning lesson for a lot of people. It was a very tricky, challenging, uncharted territory for everyone in elected office at the local, county, state, and federal level. Having not had something like that in 100 years, it really did take everybody by surprise, and you had to just use your best judgment at the time. I will say that we led the state and likely the country with a suggestion that I personally brought forward to the council that allowed restaurants to use their parking lots for added outdoor seating. We also relaxed our sign ordinance, making it easier for businesses to put out sandwich boards and other signs to help promote their business during a very tough time. That actually is something I've been advocating for on council ever since I first got elected in 07, or took office in 07, because when we have major road construction that was disrupting business, we needed to do something. And so we relaxed our sign ordinances back then and allowed everyone in the city to put signs out where they were normally not allowed. So what did we learn? We learned that we can be less restrictive with our sign and other ordinances for businesses like building materials and other businesses, and they can flourish and we can still have a clean, attractive city.
It's a really fast minute, Dan. Thank you.
It is.
It's a really fast minute. But good news is you've got a little bit of a break here until your next minute's up. With that, this question is going to be going over to Chris. Chris, increased height of the landfill is a hot topic in our community as well as surrounding communities. It appears that a solution currently sought by the city and other partners increases the height of the existing landfill substantially, and the closure now won't result in the golf course that was originally planned. Do you support this plan? If so, how is it good for the city of Burnsville outside of the specific tax revenue for it? If not, what is your proposal?
So I voted against this initiative. It came before the planning commission. The reason I did was the environmental impact it has, how close that landfill is to the river. And, you know, we look back 60 years ago when they actually put the landfill in, it was before the environmental revolution. We really didn't think that way about putting landfills in that spot. So let's give them a pass. But today, to double down on that, to increase the size and continue what would otherwise have closed, what are they going to think about us 60 years from now? And is that the best decision to make? Well, I voted against it. It still went to the council, and the council went in and they unanimously voted to build this mountain, of the garbage mountain. But either way, so the best thing that can come from this is that we could still do our dig and haul just because of the proximity it is to our unlined landfills. And I think that will be the best thing that can come from this. And hopefully it keeps that garbage from being contaminating the water. 60 seconds is way too fast. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're big questions. They are big questions. And I guess the people watching just saw my red screen, so that's what the candidates are seeing when their time is up. It's a pretty intense notification for them. Moving on to Vince, this one is coming to you now. The increased height of the landfill. Your thoughts on that? Is it a good move? Do we support it? If so, what's the benefit of the city of the residents of the city of Burnsville outside of the tax revenue? And if not, is there an alternative that you propose?
Yeah, Brady, this speaks directly to my opening statement about making sure Burnsville is better off further down the line. The biggest difference between this landfill and the closed freeway landfill is there are leachate collection systems, methane collection systems to prevent groundwater contamination. The current approval by the MPCA is only going to allow an approximate 13 million cubic yards into the current site at an increase of 92 feet, and they have to come back in 10 years for a reapproval. So this is not approving the 200 plus feet that is originally asked for. PCA is going to incrementally allow this as it's needed. The reason why I support this is because the plan by the state right now with freeway landfill is to build 2 monstrosities at the entryway to Burnsville at the freeway landfill. The freeway landfill is proposed to be 790 feet tall, the freeway dump about 730 feet tall, and I'm going to fight tooth and nail to prevent that from happening. And the only way for that to stop is by allowing this expansion at MP or Waste Management.
Thank you. Next, Dan, over to you. Freeway, the landfill. What is it that we can do? Is this a good proposal right now, or is there something different that you would propose?
Well, the landfill's been there for decades, and it's going to be there for another 4 decades unless a cost-effective trash to energy technology comes to market, which actually could happen given the speed of new technology these days. So the whole area has already been zoned and approved as a landfill. This is a step-by-step process to add more. The most important goal we all should agree is to make sure we protect our drinking water and our environment. We need to be laser focused on moving all garbage to lined and managed landfill like BSLI. Right now, we have 2 landfills that pose an unknown threat to our drinking water. That's freeway landfill and freeway dump. So yes, I support this additional MPCA permitting in this area because it was already designated that decades ago. The additional height allows for the capacity to move the freeway landfill and dump, and this also cuts in half the acreage of landfills in Burnsville, so that's a good thing. And in this process, they moved the limits of waste 700 feet further away from the river, which is a very good environmental move. So I think this is the right move. There's a lot of good reasons why we are doing this to set ourselves up to protect the environment from what is underground now in an unlined 2 landfills. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. It looks like as we tackled that topic, it really did come up here. Drinking water, water quality. That's going to be the next question here. It is going to Vince first for this question. Drinking water. It's important to the business community to have a great place for residents to live, keep them in close proximity to where they can shop, eat, and go to work. Currently, there are several neighborhoods within Burnsville that seem to have an issue with poor taste and or smell in the water. What can be done to better address that issue?
Great question. This is actually in the process of being worked on as we speak. On October 12th, 2021, our utility superintendent and our assistant public works director came to council with community survey results that answered one question about water that got bad remarks. And at that time, there was an offer to install something called an ozone system, which would have had a price tag of upwards of $6 million. We directed staff to go back, refine the questions, ask more questions, get more details, and then come back to council so we could make a more educated decision rather than just impulsively spend $6 million on something that might not work. I believe this is coming back this month or next month with the full report. And at that time, council will have a more educated backbone to make a decision on what we do. On top of that, Kramer Mining, where we get our surface water comes from, has dug down 40 additional feet into where the water is provided to help offset some of this on their dime. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, this one is to you next. Drinking water, poor taste and smell in some of the areas of Burnsville. What can be done to address the issue?
Like what Vince was saying, I mean, it's number one thing that I hear when I'm knocking on doors is the quality of water. It tastes funny. I need to use these different systems to clean it up. And, you know, I'd set up a tour of the water treatment facility for the planning commission. We just checked it out and we had questions, of course. And one of the questions we asked, and I think this is what Vince was alluding to, was the ozone system to help make it better. That's one thing we can do. It's going to be an investment, but it might be an investment worthwhile because water is a very important resource. And as you look across the country and you're seeing the water being contaminated, it worries people if their water doesn't taste right. It makes them think that there's something wrong with it, even if there isn't. And with our landfills by the freeway, it's something that they could be worried about, and they probably should be worried about.
Thanks, Chris. Dan, over to you. Drinking water, what can be done to address its poor taste and or smell in the community?
Well, first of all, everybody in Burnsville deserves good tasting, safe drinking water. I've been the most vocal about our poor tasting water on city council going back to the first day we started including surface water mixed in with our well water. I lived in an area of town where there was 2 cul-de-sacs, dead ends, and the water smelled like swamp water in our laundry. It was difficult to drink. I since moved to a street where it's more of a straightaway and it's dramatically better. But anyone living where I used to live or in areas like that, they don't deserve that kind of water. So I have barked pretty loud over the last many years about doing something about this. And it hasn't been an easy fight because it really took a lot of advocacy to try and get the majority of the council to want to pay attention to it, to get the study done, to now learn through this survey that a very large percentage of people in Burnsville don't like the taste of our water. And so we have to do something about it. So we're investing in the technology to improve the filtration, as Vince mentioned. We can learn a lot from cities like Minneapolis who have done surface water their entire life. But we absolutely are heading in the right direction to fix a problem that is long overdue.
Thank you, Dan. Well, thank you again, candidates. Thank you each, Dan, Chris, and Vince, answering the questions that came up from the Public Policy Committee. With that, we're going to go around for another fast minute here to tell us a little bit why you would be the best choice for the constituents in the city of Burnsville, specifically the Chamber of Commerce, to vote for you as a city council member. With that, we will start things off with Dan. Dan, let us know why you'd be the best candidate to vote for this November.
As I mentioned earlier, we're about clean and safe. From my first election in 06, I've been never wavering about my support with public safety. I have fought for the tools, facilities, and staff every single year, and we rely on information from our city manager to tell us what those are through our PD. We're also about keeping our parks and natural resources clean and safe, and nothing is more important than our drinking water, as we talked about. I'm reminded every day I play with my grandchildren, we have a responsibility to protect the environment for our future generations to enjoy. We also don't oversee the school district, even though we get asked all the time. They have their own board of education governing them, and we control streets, parks, natural resources, zoning, and your tax dollars. We do not own the regional mall or the blighted strip center, but we are going to do whatever it takes to help turn those two around to improve our city. My work is focused on what is best for Burnsville and to hold the city hall accountable for the money you entrust in us. That's not always an easy path. It takes a strong commitment to ask the hard questions, the unpopular questions, and demand that we deliver value while we invest wisely in our community assets to grow prosperity in Burnsville for everyone. I'm running for city council to continue my service to the community, and I'm asking for your vote to keep common sense and innovative voice with solutions on the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Chris, next, why would you be the best candidate for your constituents on the city council, as well as the residents of Burnsville, to vote for this November?
Well, I think I'm the best candidate because not only do I have the financial background, but I also have enough experience with city government, doing the commissions over the last 10 years, to be familiar with some of the issues that we're facing. I have some ideas on how to fix those issues. And, when I vote for things on the commissions, I'm always advocating for the residents of Burnsville. This is your city, and I'm here to represent you. Like I said, I'm an accountant by trade. Budgeting things I do. I'm a veteran, and I believe in a better Burnsville. And I just want to make sure that everybody feels proud to live in Burnsville. And I think together we can make this city a place you can be proud to live at. Please visit my website at chrisjohnforburnsville.com.
Thank you, Chris. And Vince, over to you. Why would you be the best candidate for folks to vote for this November?
Thank you, Brady. This is a community that I'm deeply passionate about, as I stated in my opening remarks. Over my first term in office, I've voted with the citizens of Burnsville, the businesses of Burnsville in mind on every application that's come before us. This is a nonpartisan seat, and I am adamant and very passionate about keeping it nonpartisan. I am not beholden to a political party. I am not campaigning with a political party. The only party that I belong to, as cheesy as that might sound, is Burnsville, because this is where I grew up and this is where I'm investing my time and my family's time as my children grow up here. I want to leave this community better than I found it, and I'm going to continue to act with integrity and independence as if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected in November.
Thank you, Vince. And thank you all candidates joining us today, the City Council Forum for the City of Burnsville. We have Dan Kealey, Chris John, and Vince Workman. Thank you all for taking time out this evening to participate. We appreciate it greatly, and it's great for the voters of the City of Burnsville to hear a little bit more from their candidates, as well as the business community being able to ask questions in regard to the business community. Thank you very much. We look forward to learning more about each of you as the election is only approximately 30 days away. With that, Jennifer, back to you.
Brady, thanks so much for a great forum, and thank you to our candidates for taking the time to participate. This recording will be available on our Chamber YouTube page, along with all of our other candidate forums for our school board and state offices and CD2. Thank you for participating today, and we'll see you soon.